Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Pure Nintendo Podcast. This is your dose of all things Nintendo. My name is Gemma, and with me this week I have Trev from Pure Nintendo. Welcome back, Trev.
Hey, Gemma. I think we need to hit the hype button for this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll explain what that means in a second, but we have a very special guest joining us this week, a friend of the show and all the way from Premium Edition Games, Barry. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you so much for having me again. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. I think it's been about 6 months or so since we last chatted with you.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. So exciting news, and the hype button obviously comes from the Premium Edition Direct that you guys put out every is it 6 monthly about, I think?
We try 2 to 3 times a year.
Yeah.
They're a lot of work to put together and all that, but we try and do them to give spotlight to the wonderful developers and digital publishers that we work with.
Yeah, absolutely. So the fall direct just came out almost 2 weeks ago now, and it's like you said, talks to a whole lot of new games that you guys are bringing to physical release, which is so exciting. We love what you guys do. And speaking of time to put together, I have to say, and listeners should go and check out the direct for themselves. It's Google Premium Edition Games Direct, and it's the fall direct. But I love the intro. My son and I were watching it together, and he's like, "This is really good." Like, and I think you had something different last time with the
Yep.
different cards and stuff, and this time it's a different style again. But it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's actually funny. This intro, I love this intro, and this was done by our designer Tristan, who is amazing. Mad shout out to him. He is a phenomenal guy, a phenomenal friend, and very very talented. But this intro was actually originally supposed to be our Series 6 Directs intro, and he
Right.
showed it to me, and I was like, I love this. And he's like, well, I got something else. And he showed me the cork board, and I was like,
Mm.
I like the cork board. I actually like the book better. He's like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and use the cork board, and we're going to use the book as a promo. I said, okay, that's fine. But we never wound up doing the promo. So this time I said, hey, that book still exists. Can we add some pages? Let's use the book. So I'm glad that we were able to get that in there because I really do like that intro.
Yeah, it really stood out. It's very professional looking, and you can see why. I guess it might take a little bit of time to put together, but no, it's and it's a great direct. You feature many, many games, so we'll go through some of the highlights with you, so that we can talk about some of the exciting work that's being released. And it's if listeners who aren't familiar, it's all about physical releases, and maybe Barry, you might want to explain a little bit as well, but physical releases of Switch games and other consoles as well that you wouldn't normally be able to purchase and own. It's for collectors. You do sort of um, booklets that go with it, and there's other special collectible items. I mean, it's just such a great idea. How has that grown since it's been about 6 months since we've spoken to you? How has it been the last 6 months? Have you had have things grown really well? Have you had a lot of great feedback? What's the vibe been like?
From the collectors market, it's been fantastic because
Hmm.
people just love what we do, and since we talked, we've been able to ship out our Series 5 releases, and they've gotten in hand, and people have just been like, "Wow, these are really cool," especially first time buyers. People who've like, "Oh, I haven't been interested in your titles, but this one caught my eye," so they buy it and they get it, and they're just like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, this is not what I was expecting. This is so much better." In that regards, it's great, and the only negative of any kind is just this general pushback from the general populace about digital versus physical. Where some people are like, oh, I'll just buy it digitally. I don't care. And it's like, well, you're
Mm.
missing the point. It's the
Yeah,
whole point
yeah.
of physical is to own it, to have that collector's edition, to be able to get those bonus goodies and to actually own your game and you can do what you want with it. And
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately, the physical digital war is definitely digital is winning. I mean, Best Buy just announced they're not going to be putting in physical DVDs and movies. Next year they're going to stop that.
Boo.
And yeah,
Wow.
boo,
Boo.
big boo. And it's like, we see this already with gaming, and we see this with television, with streaming. There's shows. They're like, all right, they're cutting content because streaming isn't making a lot of money, and some of that content doesn't have another home. It's just like this is gone, and you can't even watch it. And some people
Yeah.
may say, oh, you pirated torrent it. Yeah, look. okay, that's one way you do it, but that's illegal. So the
Mhm.
legal way to watch something, you can't. But if it came out on
Mhm.
DVD or Blu-ray, at least you could watch it. They can never take it away from you. And you're seeing that with games. There's so many great WiiWare games and 3DS and Wii U digital games that it's like, go play those. Well, if you didn't buy them already, you can't. And they just
Mm.
announced the Wii U and the 3DS Online's going down next year, and
Mhm.
PS3 is down, or it was going down. I think it's going down soon. PSP is gone. Vita is still up, but who knows for how long. Uh, we're seeing that where there are actually digital titles that you can't get, or they're delisted because of licenses, and you can't play them anymore, like unless you previously downloaded them. So,
Mm.
for all those that yes, there's conveniences to digital, but we're losing the war. And I'm not saying digital is bad because it's great for that convenience, but having both
Mhm.
is such a great option. And we're trying to do our part in the fight, to say like, no, you really should put this on your shelf. You really should play this. And one of the ways we strive to do that the best we can is we always do our best to make sure all our games are as complete on cart as possible or on disc as possible.
Mhm.
Because sometimes you get, especially Nintendo's notorious for it, where they'll launch a game and then they'll add some content, and then it's like, okay, well, now if you haven't previously downloaded that content, it's lost. And we've seen it on the
Mm.
Switch.
Mhm.
The example I always use is Mario Tennis Aces, where if you got a launch version of the game, you could pop it in and play it off the cart and enjoy the game, but you're going to be prompted with a download that's going to contain like 12 free characters. But they
Hmm.
did re-release the game without telling anybody, just in future prints that have those characters on the cart. So when the servers
Right.
eventually go down, if you have a launch edition, you can play the game fine, but you're missing a good chunk of the content. But there
Yeah.
is a version that has that, and you got to find it. So we always try our very best to make sure all of our releases have either free DLC or paid DLC and bug patches and all that. So it's not only playable completely from the cart, but it is also the entire game, the entire version of the game. So nothing is lost if the shop, or not
Mm.
if the shop, when the shop eventually goes down, you can still pop this into a Switch and play.
Yeah, that is such a good point. And it kind of brings to light, a lot of games that do come out eventually for Switch physically, even through Nintendo themselves. They always say it's the complete edition, it includes all DLC. And usually it's just like, oh, that's a bonus. But it's actually like a press, I can't say the word.
Preservation.
Preservation, yes, thank you. It's
It is.
preserving it, isn't it? It's like yeah, you're exactly right, because with everything that's old shutting down now, how do you play those games now? How do you get that content, that extra content?
The only
Yeah.
answer is illegally, and
Mm,
that's terrible. That should never be an answer to how we play something, is illegally. How do we watch something illegally? There should always be a legal means to be able to enjoy it. And there's so many games that are not currently available on current gen. I think the History and Foundation did like 87% was their statistic. Like 87% of previous games from previous systems are not playable on current.
wow.
Like,
I
that's
was gonna
ridiculous.
I was gonna ask for a stat, so that's, amazing that you have that, yeah,
That's a
87%.
depressing stat.
It is. Yeah, that's a really high number. I was thinking, well, if it's over 50, that's a lot, but geez, 87.
Because of all the consoles. I mean, there's so many, and even if a
Mm,
game comes back, for example, you take a game that got a port from like the Wii U, like there's so many Wii U ports. The Wii U gamepad, for example, added certain gameplay. So you could play the game on the Switch, which is great. Like Wonderful 101. You could play the game on the Switch. You could play it on PS4 even, but while it may have prettier graphics, it's not the same game in the sense of gameplay. And
mm,
it creates two different versions of the game, and the Wii U version of it is not preserved. It's gone. It is only on the Wii U. It's the only way to play it.
mhm,
And
yeah,
that's it's great to have the deluxe versions and all that. 100% in four ports because of that. It'd be great to have both versions where you could switch. It usually doesn't work that way.
mhm,
And some of those old versions, especially because of the control, it's locked. A 3DS game brought over to the Switch,
mm,
when Metopia came over. Uh, you're getting a very similar game, but that had two screens versus one, and it had 3D, like actual stereoscopic 3D that you can't do, or maybe Miitopia didn't have it, but there are other 3DS games that have been brought over that did have it,
Yeah,
because some of the
totally.
late 3DS didn't. They're like, oh, screw it, we're not even going to bother with 3D anymore. But
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
shame, you
It
know.
is, it's a huge shame, and I mean, that's why it's great that Premium Edition Games exists, for example, that helps, not just, preserve this kind of stuff, but bring developers who we wouldn't otherwise even have the ability to have a physical release, to our attention and to users' collections. Because, I do see, and I know you're a collector as well, there's a lot of people, on Twitter who'll post pictures of their Switch collection. They've got these great shelves full of titles. It's really cool and inspiring. It's like, oh man, they've got so many. It looks great. And I mentioned this a while ago when when the latest Zelda title came out, because I went digital and I felt so dirty. I was like, ooh, like,
The bad.
yeah,
A
I've never
shame.
done that. I know I've never done that with Zelda before. I feel really bad about it because I don't have the case, I don't have the physical cartridge. It was just a convenience thing. I was like, I wanted to play it at midnight. I just wanted to download it. I'm just going to
And
do
you
it.
still haven't beaten it, Gemma.
I
So
know,
how's that
I know,
convenient
I
for you?
know,
Wow,
I
you
know,
you were that in a hurry and you haven't beaten it yet.
I know. I've spent a lot of time in it. I just haven't beaten it. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I did a midnight launch and I got it and I played it, and
yeah.
and even in a case like this, it's interesting where back with the NES as a prime example, where they they updated the games and they did new prints, but most people didn't even realize, like, it was more subtle. And they did this in the Super Nintendo and 64, stuff like that. And if you get like an emulation or a ROM list, a lot of times you'll see like, version 1.0, 1.1, and there's really subtle differences. And now with all these updates, they flat out tell you the version number. uh, that's something where there's positives, to have that launch version, because you have version 1.0, that's
Mm,
on there, and there could be things that, specifically Zelda has the dupe glitches, and they're only available in like 1.0, 1.1, at least the
mhm.
easier dupe glitches. And if you update your game, you can't do that anymore. So with the physical, you can actually say, "Oh no, I'm going to play 1.0, and I'm going to be able to do all those things, and I'm just not going to update." And
Yeah, yeah,
there's some pros and cons to that as well.
yeah. I feel sad that I don't have in my collection of Switch cases. I have a lot. It's not there. I'm like, it's missing.
You'll buy it.
It should be.
You'll go buy it,
I probably will. Yeah, I think I have to. Yeah. I have every other, Legend
especially
of
if it's
Zelda title.
bug
So.
you.
Leave
It's
a
the
gap
only
in the
one.
shelf so you know there's that
Yeah,
gap.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, thank you, Trev. That's a good idea.
The gap will could become more apparent when the next Zelda comes out and you realize there's a
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Anyway, well, let's talk about some of the great games that are coming out on the Switch. So tell me about Series 7, because this is the
Uh,
the one that you've just announced.
yes,
Yeah, from the first one that I remember in the direct was Anucard, is that right?
Anochard.
Anuchard, yeah. Is
Yes,
that a Series 7 title?
yes, yeah. So
Yes.
Anochard's available for pre-order as of right now, at the time of this recording. So Anochard is this pretty much epic action RPG that has graphics like Moon RPG. It's got gameplay like Zelda,
Mm,
and it's got the humor of the Mother series. So you play as this character that lives in this village, and you accidentally become the bell wielder, and the bell wielder is this historically important character who is able to save souls and restore the land, and save the world of Anuchard and of what happened to it. And you don't know what happened to it, because it's almost like post-apocalyptic. You're just this little village, and you go into these dungeons, and pretty much you're saving the souls of the villagers who went in there for whatever reason. And each of the dungeons contain really cool puzzles and obviously combat, as well as little nuances to why the person was captured and what their personal story is. And when you can save them, they come back to the village, and they're able to, kind of repopulate. And there's different collectibles, and as you go through, you go to different dungeons, and you can always go backtrack. It's nicely lets you backtrack if you missed stuff. But it's just this like hooking game. Like, I couldn't stop playing it. I just wanted to
mm.
see see it as far as I could get. And this does have very good accessibility, which I'm a big fan of accessibility, because it allows anybody to play.
Yeah.
And in terms of difficulty, one of the things you can do is you can make it so you take double damage. So it's like you really want to make sure, or you take no damage, which means you're
Right.
still doing the combat, you're still fighting the bosses, but you're not going to take any damage. So you can see the story, you could explore the dungeon, you still have to do the puzzles, but it allows you to play at your own pace without the struggle of, oh man, I just died, I got to do that dungeon again.
Yeah, yeah. It looks fantastic, honestly. The trailer for this one definitely stood out to me. I love the little character with the bell, and sort of that top down, like you said, like a Zelda style kind of thing with the dungeons, etc. I haven't tried it, but it really looks great. It does look fantastic. So pre-orders are open right now. When is it? When is that going to be kind of shipping, or is that not something you know yet?
We don't have an exact date. We
Hmm.
usually do at minimum a month pre-order, but lately we've been doing it a little longer because we were noticing when we cut it at a month, we always get an email literally the next day. Oh, I missed it. Is there any way I could still pre-order it? So, and
Yeah.
truthfully, we extend it for a long period of time, and we still get those emails. But we really want people to get a chance to order it, and we'll
Hmm.
start entering production sometime after that. And of
Yeah.
course, once the production is done, we'll get into a warehouse and we'll start shipping out. And if you pre-order
Brilliant.
it, you get a dog tag. One of the gifts we give all of our pre-orders. Every game gets their own individual dog tag. It's just our way of saying thank you. And then once we have it in hand, we will do a second chance sale, which is what we're working on doing some now with some Series 5 titles.
Cool.
So if you do miss it, you can get it later on, but um, there's no guarantee. And especially with
Mm.
our retro editions, because all of our games have a retro, those are extremely limited. Like those are one print. Like those aren't open pre-order. Those are pretty much, hey, if this sells out, this sells out. The
Yeah.
only additional copies of that we're gonna have is we're not selling 100% because we need to leave some back for damages. So once all pre-orders are shipped out and they're all good, make sure there's no damages or replacements needed. All the few remaining that we're keeping are going to go to conventions. We're not even going to ship them, pretty much.
Mhm.
We're aiming. I mean, maybe we'll put a few on a website for like Black Friday, but our main goal is to enforce, like, look, we've done open pre-orders on retros before, and we're not. We're doing this as a very limited collector's thing. But the standard editions are open pre-order, and we want to make sure everybody can get a copy of the game.
Yeah, cool. And Series 7, I think I saw there's some sort of, you can pre-order the whole package. There's
Yes,
yes, which is great. What do you call that? It's like a
we call the
mega
mega
pack.
pack.
Yeah, mega pack,
Yes,
yeah.
so there's multiple mega packs. There's like all standards, all retros, and then everything. And
Mm,
we have those up there because some people, we do our pre-orders every other week. We put another game up, but some people say, life, I'm not going to be able to, come back, or I don't want to forget, or I don't want to lose out, and they could just one click buy the whole thing, and then not have to worry about it. So those are available right now on our website too.
yeah, perfect. That's a great idea. Have you done that for the other seasons, just out of
Yeah,
interest?
we did it for
Yeah.
Series 6, and I think we did it for Series 5. I think that was the first one we did it because people requested it. They said, "Hey, can we get that?" Because the first few series we put everything up on the same day, so there was less of a reason to do it. But with Series 5 we didn't, and Series 6 we didn't, and 7 we're not. So we said, all right, let's do that. So if we appreciate the support, if you're a collector, if you want to collect all of our games, or you really enjoy every game of the series, then we want to make it as easy as we can for you, and hopefully you take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually really tempting because it's just so easy to just, and then you have it all and you're not gonna miss out, and it's like and you can have this awesome collection. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I think it's a great idea. I love the next. So you sort of mentioned Nestember, which is
Yes.
obviously September was Nestember for you guys. September is over now. It's a couple weeks ago. Tell us about Nestember. What
Sure.
happened?
So
What did you guys
with
do?
with Nestember, what we decided to do is highlight the original Nintendo, where we had
Hmm.
previously done two releases. We did Ore Body Binder's Tale and Bobby 67. And what we did is we put copies of both games up, as well as We had a limited silver edition where we did, holographic box, and we did an actual silver cartridge. And those were very, very limited, but people missed out on them. So we had a few extra, and we let's put them up there as a special. And we also launched a brand new game during Nestember, which is available right now on our website, still to pre-order. Very few copies left. But we talked about that in the direct as well, and that's Oratorio
Mhm.
from Ore Body Inc. And what that is that is a rhythmic shooter a la Res, but on the NES. And there's no other game like that on the NES. And it's got a
Yeah,
great
it's
soundtrack.
very unique looking
Very,
for an
very
NES
unique.
game, yeah, yeah.
It's a
Well,
lot of
you know what?
fun.
It's
What?
not just unique gameplay wise, because I was looking, Barry, at the trailer because
Uh-huh.
I'm a big NES fan, and not that I'm a tech expert on hardware or anything, but I was just looking at some of the things they were doing on screen, and I'm like, how are they pulling this off? Because this isn't like in an NES style. Like
Mhm.
this is actually going to run on NES
Yes.
hardware, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, how are they? This is like some kind of wizardry or trickery. How are they off? Because they had certain effects that I just don't ever recall seeing,
No.
even in the NES heydays. So, like, do you have any insight into that? Like how the developer kind
I
of
know that
maximizes?
John is a whiz, and this has been like one of his babies that he's been working on. And when we saw it, we were really blown away because, like you said, this isn't like Shovel Knight, which is NES style but cannot run on an NES at all. Shovel Knight will
Mm,
not work. This is an
Mhm.
actual physical NES cart that will run, but I do know that we needed a specific cart to make it work. I don't remember the specifics. That had to be a specific cart with a specific chip set, or it would
Mhm.
not work properly. And we are manufacturing the cart with that specific chipset to make sure that it works. And that's about as far as I could tell you. Other than it's a phenomenal game because I played the ROM. We didn't play it on a physical NES yet. We played it on an NES emulator. And you can download, there's a version I think that he's selling on itch. But we downloaded the ROM and played that, and it's so much fun. And we're like, this is great. I can't wait to actually play it on the NES. But these are all
Yeah.
manufactured, and they're hand assembled too. There's no like factory that does NES stuff. So we get the cartridges, and our team hand assembles the box, and we have the manual we write, and we have the manual printed up, and we have they're all put together in there. And
Oh,
it will
wow.
fit standard. It's a standard NES box. So it'll fit NES protectors. It'll look great on your shelf next to other NES games. But yeah, it's a really unique title, and we're honored to be able to bring it. And that's available for pre-order right now.
That is so cool. I actually wanted to ask about that because I know last time we talked about the process with Switch games, and you actually do like Nintendo does you work with them on printing the cartridges for
Yes.
Switch. And I
So
didn't know how it worked for NES, but it's obviously quite different.
the Switch cartridges are proprietary, so they're printed
Yeah,
by Nintendo. The
right.
NES cartridges at this point are past a date. The Nintendo
Mhm.
doesn't make them anymore, but now other people can. So there are other smaller factories that will make them in
Cool.
smaller numbers. So we pretty much have to give them the file, and they put the chipset all together, and they with whatever chipset to put in the case, and they manufacture it. And then we get all the just the card only manufactured shipped to us, and we have the boxes and the manuals created by a different our standard box and manual creators, our printers. So we write that all in house. We have our in-house writers, and when we get it all together, we assemble the box and pop everything in there and seal it up. We have a shrink wrap, so you're getting a sealed game.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That
so it's
is
it's all done in house after the cartridge.
yeah, that's really cool. Just out of interest, do they do that for other consoles? Like, do they have a Game Boy
There
factory that makes little Game Boy
there are
cartridges?
there are homebrew Game Boy. You could buy Game Boy shells and
Mhm.
chipsets, and like a lot of it, you're just buying like people who say I'll make a Game Boy game, I want to do a physical. They'll do a run where they'll buy like say 50 chips and 50 cases, and they'll themselves manually plug in the chip and download the ROM onto the chip
Right.
and assemble it. And there's a ton of homebrew Game Boy games which are great. And Genesis has some homebrew, Super Nintendo. The homebrew aftermarket scene, especially the physical scene, is growing, and we'd love to see it because these systems are so beloved to us, and these are brand new games.
Mm.
And a lot of developers look at it as a challenge because making a game for the Switch or the PlayStation or the Xbox is in a grand scheme easier because you have all access to all these tools. But when you limit
Mm.
yourself, these are the amount of colors I can use, these are the amount of sprites I could put on screen. You can't do super 3D graphics, so you have to really think outside the box and work within limitations of a system. And a lot of developers look at it as a challenge, and they truly succeed at it, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. Having met a bunch of developers in PAX recently, and the enthusiasm that comes across from these people who love what they do, I can see some people would thrive on that kind of challenge with me. Like, I've got this limited workspace, to the confines of this workspace that I'm dealing with. How can I make it work? I love that. I actually really love
Exactly.
that. Yeah, that is very cool.
It's almost like a paradox, I think. Like they have the limitations, but at the same time, maybe it gives them a measure of freedom because they can really zero in
Mm.
on, specific aspects rather than, feel like the world's their oyster.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it as well. There's a pair of NES titles that you also announced during the direct in the form of Jill and Dill and Jill and Dill 2,
Yeah, Jim and
which
Dill 1 and
Did you say
2.
Jill?
I did
It's
say
Jim and
Jill.
Dill.
Jim and Dill, yep. Jim and Dill and Jim and Dill 2,
Correct.
which is another music-based title in a
Hmm.
sense. Is
Yep.
this a real band in
I
real
believe
life?
so. I
Yeah,
believe
okay.
I believe the developers band,
Mhm.
and developed by Cal Games, and very very talented developer again. And these games have been like his baby. He's worked on these games for a while, and when he approached us and we were talking, and one cool thing he did, because you could download the ROM, but what he did is he actually went back to each game, enhanced both games, added content, and all of that is exclusive to the physical version of the game. So our physical is actually going to be a different than the version you can get right now with an emulator.
Cool.
And he had to go back and recut both of those trailers because he was like, "There's so much new footage, and the game looks so much better now that I went back and did it. I had to redo the trailers, so he had to replay through his own games twice to get the footage."
Mm.
And it's such a cool story, and I love the fact that he aspired to Castlevania 2 and Zelda 2, which is no one else really does, where the sequel
Yeah.
is very, very different than the first game. Because the first game is like Star Tropic Zelda style, and the second game is a 2D action beat 'em up like Double Dragon.
Yeah. I did love that as well. Yeah, that they even mentioned that, didn't they? It's like,
Yeah,
we're doing what Zelda 2 did and going completely different to the original, which is cool. Yeah, just for
yeah,
something unique, a unique twist on things.
very
I
unique.
hadn't Yeah, 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 and they both look great from their each, genre's perspective, I suppose, in terms of that top-down kind of, Zelda 1 style compared to the Zelda 2, well, the brawler kind of style in Jim and Dill 2. Two unique, offerings, so
Yes.
that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah,
What
so
about
we're
yeah.
doing like special packaging, which we can't show off yet,
Mhm.
and something to commemorate the fact that it's two games of the series. But it's one of those where if you say I don't like Zelda games, but I like beat 'em ups, you can play the second
Mm.
game without playing the first, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you're a fan of the band, you'd get a real kick out of it because it seems like there's a lot of tongue in cheek kind of
Hmm.
moments that, fans would recognize, which is cool,
The
so
whole the whole thing is crazy because like one part you're fighting skiers and then you're on a disco dance floor, and like it's very very humorous. Like you can't go into it
mhm.
thinking like, oh, this is gonna be a super serious game. It's just a lot of fun, and a lot of what you're not expecting to be thrown at you is going to be thrown at you, and then some.
I had a question for you, Barry, because
Yeah.
earlier you were talking about like with in a chart how it was an accessible game, but obviously these NES games were known for being pretty darn hard. So, do you know what type of challenge people should expect? Like, are we going to get wiped out in the first encounter, or
These ones are definitely there's some challenge to it. But I don't think you're going to be throwing your head against the wall. I think
or
they're
my controller
accessible,
against
but
the wall?
challenge or the controller. I think they're accessible enough. The Clay, the developer, did say like he did have parts of the game that gave him challenge, and he's the developer. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's like I had a lot of fun with it when I was playing. But everyone's skill level changes and
Mm.
varies, and sometimes you might say, well, this section was really easy for me, but that one was hard, and I go, well, that one was hard for me and the other one was easy. So you never know. But I think everybody is going to be able to complete these games and have a good time doing it.
And you'll have
Yeah.
a few backup carts if people snap their cart in half because they're frustrated.
We will always produce extra, but not a lot. Like with Switch, there's minimums, and PlayStation there's minimums, and NES there isn't. So what we do with these pre-orders is we look at how many we've sold, and we order a few extra, not only for damages, which unfortunately do happen, but also then we'll take some to conventions, or we'll put
Mhm.
a second chance sale up. But they are, we'll keep printing. I mean, if there's a huge demand, we'll keep printing. But we really like to be able to get these games in the hands of collectors that can play these on the original hardware, and get the developers have their game come out physically is awesome.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Speaking of conventions, you guys are really busy over the next couple of months traveling around.
Yeah, as of right now, we're at Portland Retro Gaming Expo, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah. Okay,
Uh,
cool.
so yeah, we do a bunch of shows.
Yeah, that's great. No, and in fact, before I watched the direct, I was going to ask you that anyway, just because I had been at PAX recently myself. Um, Obviously, you didn't come to Australia for PAX Australia.
No,
Have you been to Australia?
I have never been to Australia per
You
se.
have to come next year. Come to PAX Australia and meet me there.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. It's a little harder right now because I have a 3-month-old.
Yeah,
So
of course, of course.
it's,
No, but that's cool. Yeah, I was just blown away with how many conventions you guys are going to. So if listeners are attending, have a look at the list because there's just so many, too many probably to mention on this show. But
oh yeah.
if is there any you want to kind of highlight quickly to listeners and say, come
I
join
mean,
us?
it's one of those things where people always ask us where you're going to be, and when we do the conventions, a lot of times people come up and go, "I didn't know you were going to be here." And
Yeah.
we have a section in our Discord and stuff. But Scott, who is our street team head of our street team, he does so many conventions. He actually approached me and said, "Can we do a section in the direct about that? Because I want to
Mm,
let people know where we're going to be, and let people say, oh, I wasn't even going to go there, but maybe I'll go to this show, or it's just something to look forward to." And I said, "That's a great idea. We should let people know." And between Scott and the rest of our street team, as well as our partnership with Gamers for Gamers, who do a bunch of conventions, we're going to have our games on the floor, almost every weekend from now until Christmas.
yeah.
And then there's a little bit of a break in like January, February, March. There's less conventions, and then it starts back up. But
Hmm.
we're usually at some convention in the United States, virtually every weekend,
Yeah.
and sometimes multiple shows in a weekend. But we always try and do the big ones. But we also will do smaller. We are just last weekend, as of this recording, Retro Game Con in Syracuse. Scott was over there. That's a great show. And we do like Too Many Games and Southeast Game Exchange, and we do Midwest Gaming Classic. And like I said, we're Portland this weekend of Game On Expo. We try and do as many as we can because we get right down the floor. We love to meet everybody. We love to talk to people. We love to talk to our existing supporters that have purchased our games and love them, and we love to talk to potential new ones that have never even heard of us, and let them know who we are. So,
Yeah. It's great.
always look in, and you always ask, and like you said, check, because if you're in the United States and you're planning on going to convention between now and Christmas, there's a good chance we're going to
Yeah.
be at one of them, and we'd love to have you stop by and say hi.
Yeah, nice. Do you guys usually do PAX in the US?
We have not. I know PAX East isn't terribly far from me, and I was going to do it one of these years, and I may eventually.
Mm.
It's just one of those where we have to, how much is it going to cost? Can we
Mhm.
get a
Mhm.
booth? Because it's not just selling games and talking, but there's always expense, travel expense, booth
Yeah,
expense,
totally.
as we have to make sure it's at least profitable, and at least pays for
Mhm.
itself. So there's all those other factors, and obviously set up and tear down, and
Yeah,
there's
but
a
there's a
lot
lot.
of stuff doing.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely, and the list that's on the direct is quite lengthy anyway, and I didn't even know most of those existed, but I'm also not in the US. So I'm like, oh, I wish I lived in one of those areas because they sound really fun. There's not a
There's a
lot
lot
going
of
on here.
conventions here.
PAX
Yeah.
East actually isn't, because you guys are going to be at the Rhode Island Comic Con. I don't think PAX East is terribly far from there. So
Oh yeah, we
something
have
to
a
keep in mind
team
for the
going to
future.
Rhode Island Comic Con.
Cool.
Right this weekend is New York Comic Con, which is a show that I've done before. We're not, we wouldn't be there. That is an expensive show to be in.
Mm,
And that's a
mm.
lot of work to do. 4 days in the city, set up, and like that's a
Wow.
big show. But yeah,
Yeah.
PAX East is Boston, so it's about a 4-hour drive from where I'm at.
Yeah. Okay.
So
That's cool.
it's not terribly far, but it's one of those where it's like, am I able to get away for that long?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Can't really bring a 3-month old with you to
Oh no, exactly, yeah. And I don't really want to say bye to the wife and make sure you're just stuck with him for the entire, weekend, and you're dealing with him. Bye.
Yeah. You're a good man, Barry.
once they hit the
So
terrible twos, maybe then.
Yeah.
yeah, then I'll just bring him to the show and let him destroy everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, once they hit a certain age, I mean, they're gonna love the show, so
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
different. Then it'll be fun to bring him and be able to sit
Mm.
him down and play and bring him around the booths and all that stuff. That will
Yeah.
be fun.
Yeah. Oh,
He's
totally.
just
I
too
took
young right now.
took my kids to one day of PAX last weekend and had an absolute blast, so that was their first ever show, so
Oh
yeah, it
wow,
was really cool. Really, really cool. They were blown away. It was
that's
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah. So a few other games to chat about in terms of your direct. So I wanted to ask about Poglings because this was in your previous direct. But one
Yes,
thing that caught my attention, and tell me if I've got this stat right. Did the Kickstarter goal, was it reached in 50 minutes? Is that
yes,
right? Yeah,
yep,
that's amazing. I
yeah.
mean,
It
I'm not
was
surprised because the game obviously looks really cool and it was sort of hyped up already because it was like, what did you guys say? It was like if Sega hadn't uh,
abandoned the Chow
yeah.
Garden from Sonic Adventure
Yeah.
1 and 2.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Poglings is it's just a really cool idea, and we played a really early build demo, and we fell in love with it. And this is from Yojoiko, which is the YouTuber Chadtronics company, and Right Nice, and they were crafting this really great game, and it is still going. It's such a successful Kickstarter. It's in development, and they're hopefully going to be able to give us a little more information towards the end of this year. When they have some more stuff they want to show, they want to put some polish and everything. But the game is going well. They're working on it, and we can't wait to see the final build when it is done, and obviously put out the physical. But we won't
Mhm,
personally be taking pre-orders on it until it's delivered and done, and we say, all right, the
mhm.
game here it is. Then we'll start taking pre-orders. Until then, we'll just keep updating and talking about it because it's great.
Yeah.
We're so happy to be working with them.
I might have mentioned this last time you were on the show, Barry. I probably should have went back and listened, but it's worth repeating, even if I did. Um, Specifically with Kickstarters, because I know probably a lot of us have had really great Kickstarter stories, and then also some not so good. So, is there like, can you just maybe share some of your insight on how you decide which Kickstarter to collaborate on?
Yeah, so we try not to get into too many Kickstarters because we don't want to be like, well, we're part of 8 Kickstarters and we're waiting for all of them to deliver. And then, of
Mm.
course, when they do eventually deliver, we have to plan that into our schedule. And if we don't have a slot, because we plan ahead, we've got games signed for future releases and future series. So if we don't have a slot, we will have to. Oh, we're gonna have to delay the physical for a bit. So we don't want to too much pigeonhole ourselves, and we're always talking with the developers and being like, what's your timetable, how's it going, so we can plan accordingly. But for us, the game has to speak to us, the developers have to speak to us. It has to be something that we feel not only are we strongly behind, but we also, we would pack ourselves, and we think our audience would be behind. And we saw Poglings, it was so unique, it was so different. We said, yeah, we need to be a part of this. And then all our Kickstarters are that way. They're just unique games. They're a lot of fun. They're stuff we would back, we would buy personally, we would play. and we got along great with the development team, and it's just like, yeah, we want to put our name out there. We want to support you. We want to be there and go along with the ride with you, and help your Kickstarter succeed.
Yeah,
Nice.
that is nice. A great question, Trevor. I was wondering the same thing. So yeah, that's awesome. I can't imagine how, excuse me, how hectic it must be in your office day to day trying to track these different, you've got projects at different stages of development, like from the very beginning, that are the new ones that are coming out in the future to the ones that are coming out right now. You've got your pre-orders, you've got, yeah, so much going on. It's great that you have such a wonderful team to work with, and everyone must have their kind of role to play, I guess. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, but another couple that I thought worth mentioning, excuse me, this is my post-PAX voice happening here. Lonesome Village from Ogre Pixel was a
Yes.
standout to me. That one looks really good. I think it
Yes.
just, yeah. Tell us about that one.
So that is our one of our other Series 7 titles that goes up for
Hmm.
pre-order in just a few days of this, as of this recording. Monday, the 16th of October,
Cool.
it goes up. So Ogre Pixel is a fantastic developing team. They are from Mexico. It's all Mexican, and this is their first game. This and also was a Kickstarter. This did
Cool.
over 5 times the amount. We were not part of the Kickstarter, by the way. It just happened to be.
Hmm.
And this is like if you mixed Animal Crossing with some Zelda, and you get that cozy, but you also get the challenging with the puzzle aspect of it. And you play West the Coyote, and you come upon Lonesome Village, and it's deserted. There's no one there, and there's this mysterious tower. Why is this mysterious tower here? What's in there? So you go in there, and you have to start solving puzzles. And every time you start solving puzzles and you move up to a new floor, you unlock a new village or you rescue them. Sometimes multiple, and they go to the town, and you can go back to the town, and they start to liven it a little more up, and you unlock things like gardening and fishing, and you can decorate your house, and there's side quests and all these other resource gathering and all this fun stuff. And then you go back into the tower, and you get new items and new puzzles, and you keep going up just pretty much solve the mystery. What's going on in Lonesome Village? Why are all the villagers like this, and who did this, and why is this tower here? And you got like this magnified glass that you can kind of like pinpoint hidden items all over the game, and all over the town and the world. And it's deeper than I was expecting. And again, it hooked me in, and it was just so much fun. But at the same time, it was casual. Like we have a lot of action games in our catalog, and we're like, oh, we don't really have any casual games, something that people could just more like relax. And not only did this have that, but because as Zelda fans, we love puzzles, we love that top-down perspective. This delivered in that regards too. So we're really happy to be working with them to bring this out, and we love the art style. It's so good.
The art style is adorable. I just love it. It really stands out to me. And I do love that crossover. It has that Animal Crossing Zelda vibe. I think that's the perfect mesh of genres, actually. It's like,
Yeah, I'm
because I
surprised no one
mean,
does it.
yeah, yeah, right. How? Why is this not a thing? It should be its own subgenre. Because I love, I do love Animal Crossing, but I'm not really a sim person. I don't spend a lot of time in those sorts of games. I'm more probably on the action side, but I do love the relaxing style of an Animal Crossing. It is, it's very enjoyable. So to mesh those together, I think is perfect. Very, very perfect. Reminds me a little bit of Fae Farm that I saw at PAX recently,
Yeah,
actually. Yeah, kind of
I can
meshes
see that.
those. Yeah, yeah. The other game that you mentioned, and this one I actually have played and reviewed on the Switch already, which is Carl or Carl, which is a
Hmm.
platformer that I really enjoyed. So I was really excited to see this one because I'm like, oh yeah, Carl's great. I had a good time with this one. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Yeah,
this?
sure. So Carl is a tease. Carl is not part of Series 7. Carl is coming
Hmm.
next year. And Carl is made by Andrew Kennedy, Nintendo, and Matt Bittner, who is from Morningstar Studios. And we work with Morningstar with a robot named Fight. So when they approached us with Carl, and they wanted to work with us. Matt was like, I had a really good time with Robot Named Fight. I want to work with you again, and showed what we did with the Robot Named Fight to Andrew, and he was just like, this is fantastic. So we had a meeting, and we're just like, yeah, we're signed, like absolutely. And we played the
Yeah.
game. We like you, we fell in love. It was actually my personal indie game of last year.
Right,
Like
nice.
it was awesome. And Carl is action platformer. It has Mega Man aspects. It's got standard collectathon aspects. Really well done. Really cool story. And this would have come out sooner from us, but one, they definitely was buggy at launch. Like I was actually working with them. Like here's bugs I found. Trying to
Mm,
help make it better. But at the same time, we were informed that they were adding free content for new levels, new content. That's all going to be free. But we said, okay, well, we're not going to put out the physical until then because we want the game to be completely done, like we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, and then that's when we're going to put it up for pre-order, so that the physical cartridge contains all that extra content on it, and it's all getting preserved.
absolutely. I would recommend Carl and look forward to hearing more about the physical release from you guys. Yeah, it's a
Absolutely.
good teaser. The final one, and I've saved this till the end because we've been talking about the lead up to Halloween, I guess, because it is October and everyone gets excited about Halloween at the end of the month. And another title that you guys talked about was Sunshine Anthology. I think pre orders even open right before Halloween, right? Like October 30th
Yeah,
or
October
something. Yeah.
30th.
Yeah. And this one looks I love it. It just looks so cool. And this one comes with a steel book. I don't know if all of them do, but I noticed this one definitely does have the
Hmm.
steel book. Yeah, which I love the steel books. I don't have many in my collection, but I have a couple and they're just awesome. They're just I don't know what it is about them. They're just
I'm a
really
Steelbook lover too, so I hear you.
yeah, they're fantastic. So tell us a little because it's two games in one, right? The Sunshine Anthology.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Sunshine Anthology was our first ever Kickstarter that we were a part of back in 2020. And the game's been done. The game came out, I think, last year for PC. And it's been like a year in porting. And we've just been like, we want to put it up. The game's done, got great reviews, but it's still being ported. And
Mm,
we need it ported before we want to take the money. So we finally got word that Sunshine Manor, the second game, is ported, and Camp Sunshine is finishing porting process. And we're like, all right, now we could put it up for pre-order. Now we could start going with it. And this are two games to the series. The Kickstarter was only for Sunshine Manor and was successful. And Sunshine Manor it's kind of like a little Resident Evil, but it's 16-bit RPG, action, kind of like Zombies Ate My Neighbors in that sense. So it's not like
mhm,
terribly
mhm,
scary. It's like anyone can play it and enjoy. And then Camp Sunshine, the previous game, is a little more like Friday the 13th. We're in the camp, and it's same gameplay style in a sense, top down, same graphics, and you are getting both games on the cart complete. And the nice thing is this has, like you said, the steelbook because there's multiple versions. So in addition to the standard and the retro, this one's going back and giving us a deluxe. So deluxes are going to be super limited. They contain the steelbook, because that's part of the deluxe, as well as the strategy guide. And the strategy guide is for both games. It's a double-sided strategy guide, and so each side is a different cover. So you flip it to whatever game you want to cover. And we're working right with Fossil Games to make sure that the guide is completely accurate, and that's something we haven't done in a while, but people do love when we do strategy guides, and it's a real love letter. And we love that the artwork is all done by Graham Humphreys, who did a lot of the classic horror movie posters. So we got two pieces of art. So the steelbook is both of those art. The retro box, instead of having an actual back, we decided to do the retro box where both sides, one side is one cover, the other side's the other. We really want to emphasize that art piece, and it's one of the few pieces where you're gonna see us actually reuse a piece of art, just because we love it so much, and it really encapsulates it because it's that classic art style from a very classic, horror icon.
brilliant. Yeah, I mean, and that's why I saved it until the end. I think, it's just something special for this time of year as well, but it does look amazing. You've obviously spent time with it, so you've got hands-on experience, but I can't wait to actually give it a go, so, yeah. I mean, do you have a preference out of the 2? Is that something you can even say? The 2 titles? Like, which
It
style do you prefer?
they're different enough. That's the thing. Like I
Mm,
like them both,
mhm.
and we were.
Pick a side. Pick a side.
I can't pick a side. I can't. I like them both, and that's the best thing is that you don't have to pick because when you get
Mhm.
the game, you're getting both games. You
Yeah,
get the whole
yeah.
series.
Yeah, that's great. That is good. It's like its own mini collection, really.
It
Yeah.
is. And
Fantastic.
we
Yeah.
even did like the logo, like a double feature, like a horror double
Oh,
feature at
yeah,
the old
nice.
theater. And we wanted to really jump on that because this that we try and do something for each Halloween. Last year we did They Bleed Pixels, and this year we're doing Sunshine, and we're it's like something for the season. Like this is it. This is a little bit of a
Mm.
spooky game, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not a big horror guy, and this is not like a super horror game. Like you can play this without fear. It just has a spooky ambience to it.
Nice. I'm a bit like that as well. I'm not super into I love horror movies, not so much horror games. They're too immersive. I get freaked out. Yeah. But, that's great. Thank you. Did you have any other questions, Trev, about the direct before we move on to a few other items?
No, I looked. Well, actually, no, I did. Because you mentioned you try to get 2 or 3 out a year, and that they're time consuming. Is a lot of that just come from because it wasn't just you guys at Premium Edition talking. You had teams that worked on this games, talking as well. Is
Yep.
is that the
Mm.
coordination that makes these difficult?
There's a lot to it. So I write the script. So that's all, we had to write the whole thing is scripted. So I got to write the
Mhm.
script. I got to write for other people's talking too. So I try to, capture their style, and then that has to go through an editing process. And then, I have to make sure everybody gets together to record their sections. And a lot of it I don't even like listen to. So like when I'm going through, like here's the draft of the edited direct, like I'm hearing how they interpreted my script for the first time, and they do a good job. I give them creative freedom. I'm like, yeah, I'm telling you where to go, but do your own spin, have some fun with it. And then like you pointed out, we always try and get the developers to be a part of the show. So not only do we ask for specific trailers, and sometimes we have to piece that together, but I always ask the developers, and if I can't get the developer, the publisher, to say something, to really get out there, just because this is special. This is their time to shine, and I don't want to give them a
Mm.
voice. I don't want it to just be like, oh look, here's our announcement. Here's a static image of the physical. You should buy this game because we're telling you. Like, no, we want you to have a special trailer. We want you to have a message that is not just copy and pasted from another interview, like it is an actual personal message created just for this direct, only on this direct, from them to you, and let them get the floor so that they can tell you a little bit about their game and why it's special to them and why you should try it. And our editor puts it together and does the animations, and it's a lot of work, and it has to be made sure it's as perfect as we can get it, and it's time consuming. So
Mm.
it
Yeah.
takes a month to 2 months just to get everything together and all the files. And so I'll have it for you next week, and then next week comes and it still don't have the file, and I got to chase them down and be like, hey, so
That's like my
Yeah.
so
magazine articles for Gemma. I'll have it to you.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard
yeah.
though, it is, yeah.
But when the real thing is when it's all done and we do the premiere and people get to watch it and they get to enjoy it, and that's the real thing. We don't want spoilers. We just want people to go and have a good time and get something out of it. And some people will say, "Oh, that direct sucked. There was nothing for me." And you know what? That's fine. And some people don't care. They're like, "I just wish you just showed me the trailers. I didn't want to sit through any of the banter." And it's like that's fine too. Then you could look at the recap. But we want to do
Yeah,
something
true.
special for the
Mm.
developers, and hope that people appreciate the amount of time and effort that went into it, because I know the developers do, because that we want to make their game special because they're the star of the show. It's on us, it's them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to please everybody. I love it
Impossible.
personally, having yeah, impossible. But I love having the developers speak. It's sort of, like you said, it's their time to shine. I think it gives the games even more personality because, these, and like I said, when you're meeting with developers and you see that enthusiasm, you get that these are people who have worked really hard on something. Like they're passionate, this is their baby, right? So
Hmm.
I love that aspect. I think that's really cool. So
Mm.
personally, it's great. Yeah, but it is good if you do a recap that then lets people watch it their own way. Or if they don't have time, they're time poor.
We do.
I
We do a
mean,
press release afterwards and stuff
yeah,
like that, so people can do
yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah,
But there were
that's
actually
awesome.
two more things in the direct that were not talked about.
Oh, yeah? Do you wanna talk about them
Yeah,
or not?
well,
Yeah?
yeah, of course. Because
Okay.
like I said, it's time. They need to get some shine. One is another Kickstarter,
Right.
and that was Cristala,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't bring that up.
Yeah, okay, sure.
So Cristala is an action RPG Souls-like game where you get to play as a cat or cat-like race, and this game is phenomenal. There is a Steam demo. We were part of the Kickstarter this summer, and it was did over 11 times its asking. It did really well, hit every stretch goal, and Switch was one of the stretch goals. So Switch, and if it's not Switch, they told me that it would be the successor to the Switch 2.
Right, cool.
And we do have a PlayStation physical that is available through the backer kit right now. So you can actually, as a Kickstarter exclusive, but you can go to their backer kit and still get that. And we don't want people to miss out on it because we're oh, can I still get the Kickstarter version of it? So we want people to be aware that that's still there. They have some other great things. You can still support the team. The game is going early access on PC later this year, and we'll see how far it develops next year. But it's a great team. It's in their first game, so it's something that we're really happy to be working with, and we want to give them a chance and give anyone a chance to say, oh, I collect PlayStation as well, and I want to make sure I get that Kickstarter physical, and I want to give them a chance to be able to pick that up and support this team for sure.
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought
absolutely.
that up, Barry. I did notice, I think it was during that presentation that the members from the team, they were all female, which
Yes.
I feel is something we don't see as much of in
Mm.
the industry. So I thought that was kind of, it stood out to me in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah. There are men on the team too, but those are the three heads of the studio. Those are like the owners of the studio. Uh, they are all phenomenal, phenomenal people, like the sweetest people you probably could ever meet. And Ali, the head CEO, she was 30, I think 38 weeks or 39 weeks pregnant when filming
Oh,
that.
wow.
And she was still working on the game. Like that was the dedication. She was like, "Yeah, I'll do the video. Like, let's do this," And
Oh, cool.
I
true,
thought she
true.
had a glow on her.
Yeah. Oh, she really did. She was, since she's had the baby since. But it's just so cool to see that level of dedication. Like you said, it's a female-led studio, and truly some of the nicest people I've ever met.
That's lovely. Yeah, that's great. And what was the other, did you say there were
So the
2?
other thing, yeah, so there was a tease at the very end of the direct with a date, and it said, "Pay attention to our social media on October 5th."
Mhm. Oh,
Did
right,
you
which
did
is
you pay
past.
attention to that?
See,
I
I think
did
my hype
not.
button must have broke. That's why we didn't bring it up.
Ah, clearly you did not. So on our YouTube, we launched a brand new trailer, and our social media, we highlighted it as well for a brand new game announcement for next year. A brand new game. This is coming out digitally this month. It's available for pre-order from our good friends over at Modus Games. But the
Mhm.
physical we are doing next year for the Switch, and that is a game called Gordian Quest. And
Ah,
Gordian
yeah.
Quest is a card building RPG that has over 700 cards. It's got like a 30 plus hour story adventure. It's got a roguelike mode where you could just play indefinitely where it always changes. It's got multiple character classes, and each class has their own deck to work with. It is phenomenal. And it's got a great art style. You could see the trailer on our YouTube,
Mm,
and
mhm.
that is coming next year. But we did want to tease it and let people know. So just want to let
Yeah.
any listener know, like, that is coming. Stay tuned. And if you want to get digitally, support Modus. And if you want the physical, hopefully you go that route as well. Like, even if you go digital, you get the physical as well. Next
Mhm.
year, we're going to be doing the physical.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that one does look really good. I'm just checking it out now.
It does look big. I
Yeah.
mean, just getting a glimpse of like the map, you can tell it's going to be a big campaign.
It is a big
Mm.
campaign. So
Yeah,
we're really
absolutely.
happy to be working with them and bringing that out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Barry,
Of
for
course.
highlighting those 2. Sorry, they weren't on my list. I was obviously rushing to get my notes together.
I just want to
Yeah.
give everyone the spotlight, you
Of
know.
course. Yeah, I would hate to miss anyone as well. No, that's brilliant. There was just so much covered in that direct, so it's great to see the enthusiasm from you and the developers and the passion that comes across. So, yeah, if you're interested, listeners, head on over to Premium Edition Games and check out what's available for pre-sale. That's my dog snoring again, if you can hear that noise. Um,
I was going to say, wow, your throat's really sounding bad, Gemma.
No, it's my dog now. Yeah. She does this. At the end of the show, she, like, comes and sits on my lap and starts snoring. It's like, "Just give me 5 more minutes."
That's your cue. We're getting to the hour mark.
Yeah, yeah, we've done well. So that has taken us to the hour mark. We did a few other items, but we might carry them across till next week. Unless I did wanna ask, because Barry, I'm reviewing Detective Pikachu at the moment, and you said you've played it yourself.
Yes.
So I'm very interested to have a quick banter about
Yeah,
how
I
you're
got
going
time.
with it.
Let's go.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, I've been just playing it just the last couple of days. I'm enjoying it so far. I have not played. This is going to sound bad, but I didn't play the original, so I have nothing to go back on in terms of. Can't really compare it to the original game so much, but I did like that they kind of caught you up at the start. Obviously, there's a lot of humor, a
Did
bit
you
of
play the
meta.
demo, Gemma? There was a
I
demo, or maybe there wasn't a demo in your neck of the woods.
no.
Oh,
For the 3DS one, do you mean
yeah.
the original? No, I don't know. I don't think
Just
so.
here in North America, there was at least a demo, but maybe they didn't have
Okay.
one. Yeah.
I can't get it
Bummer.
now, can I? So,
No,
no.
that's an example of what Barry was talking about. You know, it's
Mm. Mhm,
At least
mhm.
there's a physical copy, so you can still get that.
True. That is true. Yeah, I could look into that. And, I've seen the movie, and I like that there's, like, a reference to the movie in the game. Like, when you're talking to your mom and your sister, and they're like, "Hey, why wasn't I in the movie?" I
I
thought that
mean,
was fun.
yeah, no spoilers.
No, it's early on, it's early on.
I'm just playing, I'm just playing.
I definitely don't wanna give away spoilers, but I like that sort of tongue in cheek, meta reference that they have. It's quite funny. And Pikachu, his gruff voice is very entertaining. It's a good style. I'm having fun wandering around solving, these kind of, problems that townsfolk are having. What's your impression, Barry? How are you going? Are you finished it? How far into it are you?
I think there's 6 cases, and I did the first 3.
Okay, cool.
But I think I'm at that point where putting the game down, and I'm not gonna finish it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's not because I don't want to know the story, because I might look up what happens.
Mhm.
And I hate to say this, it's mainly because I love these style games. I love detective games. The earlier
Mhm.
this year, Rain Code came out, Master Detective Archives, Rain Code, from the Danganronpa team, as well as the Danganronpa games and stuff like the Ace Attorney games. I love these style games. They are so good. And the one thing that I love about them is when you get a case, you're like, oh, it's definitely A. This is it. And then, like, you're like fifth of the way through the investigation. You go, oh no, A is totally wrong. Can't be A. It has to be B. And by the time the case is done, you're like, oh, it was Z all this time. I went through every, like, 24 different things. I was like the eureka moments, and I was wrong on all of them. It's like,
Mm.
wow, that really kept me on my toes and made me think outside the box. And with this, it feels like, kids' first detective style game, because, like, the second case, um, which involves a missing jewel, which I'm sure
Mhm.
you've done already. Like, I
Yeah.
knew right away. I'm like, all right, it's this and this. Like, it's got to be. and it turned out it was A. I was like, I solved it so early, and then if you didn't click on certain things, it was like, well, why is this? Let's deduce, and it like didn't give me the option to pick the obvious answer because I missed clicking
Mm.
on something. I'm like, what the heck, like I know what this is already. Like, why did you let me deduce if I can't? Like, if I'm missing this one thing, or that's silly because the clues tell me what it is. Like, I just
Mm.
felt it was too easy in terms of that. Like, it didn't rack my brain. It didn't leave me with suspense. I solved it, and the third one wasn't even really much of a mystery. It was just like, okay, like walking around doing mundane tasks. I'm like, I'm bored. Like, I don't mind playing. I love playing games on story difficulty just to enjoy the story, but I'm
Mm.
actively bored doing this because this is just like not entertaining me, and I hated it. Because not hated the game, I hated the fact that it was boring me because I'm
Yeah.
I'm more used to more complex. But for my
Right.
son, I look forward to him playing it. But like,
Yeah.
I was like, I hate to put it down. Like, I love Nintendo games, but this is
Yeah.
not doing it for me.
I have to,
Mm.
yeah, I've only just finished the second case, so I'm still relatively early on thinking,
What? Well, the second case is the jewel because there's six
yes,
counting the first part. So you just did the jewel.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I thought I was hoping that would just maybe that was easy because it was early on because it seemed a little handholdy.
Yes. Very
Yeah,
handholdy. And did you deduce it way before like the characters did?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
It was
mean,
like
I don't
right
know
out
if
the
this
box.
is the case with the previous one, but like I wanted to just talk to the right people straight away, but it wouldn't let me. It made me go somewhere else first. I'm like, I want to talk to Growlithe. Like I want to know. I want Pikachu to talk to Growlithe to find out about the neck, whatever it was. And it wouldn't let me do that. Growlithe didn't want to talk. I'm like, oh, I got to go to something
Yep.
else first and then come back. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was that. But yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting. I'll keep going. I'll persevere because I'm reviewing it, so I kind of have to. But I'll see if it gets any better. But by the sounds of it, maybe not. But we'll see how we
Maybe at
go.
the end there'll be a very unusual twist, and you'll be like,
Yeah,
"What was that?"
maybe. Yeah,
Though
yeah.
the overarching story is intriguing, and I'm curious to know where it goes, but
Hmm.
and maybe it gets better, and I have to see. But like, I was just so bored. I was like, I, I, I feel like I'm just not having fun. Like, I feel I could just watch a 20-minute YouTube compilation of the story and move on and play
Yeah,
something that I am going to enjoy more, because when there's
yeah.
so many games, why punish yourself? And I'm not saying the game is punishing. If you've never done detective games, this is perfect for you, you
Hmm.
know. But if you are interested in detective games and want something more complex, I would be like, yeah, this year, Mystery Detective Archives Raincoat is fantastic. And if I played this before playing those things like that, it would be different. But like
Mm.
playing that and be like, oh, this murder case, because they're murder cases as opposed to missing items, because it's a more of adult game, but
Hmm.
so there's blood. But it's like here's four locked room murder cases in one chapter. How do you do this? Like, locked room murder cases are always really interesting. How did they create this? How is this possible? You got to think outside the box. And then here it's like, where's the missing jewel? Oh, this Pokemon has a belly ache. Oh, I wonder why they have a belly ache. Let's go through and spend 30 more minutes doing other random bullcrap just to determine why that Pokemon has a belly ache. I'm like, come on, it's right there.
Yeah, yeah. I know. And even in the room when the glass case was opened a certain way and it's very obvious the police didn't even know that. I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
How did
yeah,
how
what?
did you not know this? It's literally sliced in half.
Yeah. It's
Maybe it's
interesting.
the
Yeah.
Springfield Police Chief
Yeah.
Cansey. That would explain it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
He
it's totally obvious.
Yeah, so it is probably, suited for a younger audience,
Mhm.
or
Easily.
an audience who's not familiar with that style of games, because when you do start deducing, when I introduced you to the notebook and here's how you deduce things, I'm like, "Oh, cool, okay, we're getting into some actual detective work here," but then it still kept holding my hand, so and I'm still early on, like I said, so I'll see how I
It
go,
it
but
continues to hold your hand,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's really like, there's one part in the third case that involves moving statues, and you have to move statues by like there's murals that show you here's the way to move the statues, and they're like complex. I'm like, maybe I should take a picture because I'm gonna have to move the statues this particular way. Maybe there's traps or whatever. And then you get to the room with the statues, and they're like, well, look, the room looks just like the murals. And there's supposed to be two statues, and where one statue is supposed to be, it's there, and the other statue, well, it's not there. There's a block of ice. I wonder where that other statue is. You open up the notebook and deduce where that other statue can be. Um, no spoiler, but under the ice, like, come on, it's obvious. And then they go, oh, maybe we should push it like the murals, and then it just blacks out and loads up, and they've already pushed it. I'm like, wait,
Right.
I didn't even have to memorize the pattern of where to push it. Like they do it for me. Like, all right,
Mm,
this is too much. I think it wasn't even a complex pattern, but it was like, come on, like,
yeah.
give me
Give us a
something
little
to
bit.
do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Oh,
And I'm
well,
sure you'll get to that point, and you'll be like, oh, this is exactly what he was talking about.
yes, I'll think of you. Yeah. Yeah, disappointing. Oh, well, I'll continue, I'll persevere, I'll get my review up and see how we go. But thank you for the insight.
Yeah, I wanted to like it more. I don't even mind the
Yeah.
graphics because I know people like don't like the graphics, and honestly, it looks like a 3DS game. I feel this was
Mm.
developed for the 3DS, and then they're like, "Oh, the 3DS is dead. Move it to Switch."
It
And
could
that
be the
was
case, actually, because how long ago was that, the 3DS title? Must have been a while ago now.
yeah, it was a while ago.
Mm. Yeah, it does have that look, and
Good
I'm
on
fine with.
as a 3DS game, it looked really good, so
Yeah, yeah,
that's why it
Yeah,
doesn't impress as much on the Switch if it's just, like,
yeah.
upscale.
And I
it
like
looks like
some of
a high
the.
res 3DS game. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. I like some of the voice work. I kinda wish Pikachu would go Pika Pika when other people hear him say Pika Pika. They keep referencing that, Tim is the only one who can hear him speak, English or whatever. He can understand Pikachu, but no one else can, which is fine. I get that, but I kinda wanna hear it from their perspective sometimes. Like, I wanna hear him go Pika Pika because I don't know why. That's just me.
I still think I would probably persevere if Danny DeVito did the voice of Pikachu.
Yeah. Yeah, now that would be cool. That would be very cool. Yeah. Well, thank you again for the insight. Before we close out, I did want to just mention that a couple of big titles coming out this week. We've got Sonic Superstars out on the 17th. This episode will launch on the 16th, Monday the 16th. So is that right? So Tuesday? It comes out on a Tuesday? That's weird. All right. So Sonic's out on Tuesday the 17th. And then Mario, for some reason, the same week. The rivalry from the 90s is still happening, but Super Mario Brothers Wonder comes out next Friday, so the 20th of October.
I
Um,
wonder which one will perform better.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I wonder too.
Yeah, exactly. Are you going to be playing either of these, Barry?
I've been debating if it's possible for me to finish Sonic in 3 days before Mario comes out, but Mario's definitely taking priority.
Yeah, yeah,
Gotta go
same.
fast.
Yeah.
Gotta go fast.
Just speed through. Yeah, I am interested in seeing how it's going to play with 4 people. That's for sure. But Mario looks fantastic. So hopefully we can talk about Mario next week on the show because hopefully we'll have had some time with the final version by then.
Mhm.
And just
Maybe
related.
both games. We did get I was telling Jemma this earlier, we got a review code for Sonic, but they sent us a PS5 one
Mm.
by
Oh,
mistake, so I swapped it for a Switch one, but it probably won't get it till Monday because by the time I emailed, it was end of work day. So
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully,
stay
fingers
tuned.
crossed. Yeah, and just related, some news that came out during the week is that the new voice of Mario and Luigi has been revealed. I suppose you could say, Kevin Afghani is Mario and Luigi in Super Mario Brothers Wonder. He seems very excited, as you would be, of course. So can't wait to hear the full version and how Kevin does with that. So that's exciting because I thought we weren't going to know until the credits rolled on the game. I thought that's what Nintendo said. It seems to be out
You know,
now.
I was wondering too, and then we'd see like, oh, Mario's voice is performed by AI, and I'd be like, oh, okay.
well,
Yeah.
I think people took like the Target GameStop demo and like hacked into it and looked into like the files,
Yeah,
and
probably.
eventually they deduced it. So it was like, well, they've already deduced it. I gotta just admit it now.
Mario
Mhm.
Wonder is more Detective Pikachu than
Yeah,
Detective
there you go.
Pikachu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, well, 2 big games, very excited, to play both of those, so we'll talk about them next week. But I think, we've hit well over the hour mark for this week, but we've had such a great time chatting. Was there anything else either of you wanted to talk about before we close off the show?
Nope.
No?
No, I
Nothing
think we
from
hit
Trev?
on
Good,
everything.
good gaming, everyone. Hope you're
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah, no, as I said at the beginning, thank you so much, Barry. You're a friend to the show. We always enjoy having your company, not
Of
just
course.
to hear about Premium Edition games, but also your insights into things like Detective Pikachu. So, yeah,
Always happy to be
yeah,
here
no.
and to give those insights.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we look forward to hearing more from you and the team over the next few months. And we'll have you on again in the future, I'm sure. So, thank you both. Thank you, listeners. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review. We are on all the podcasting channels and on YouTube as well. Leave us a comment or a question. We'll address it next week. If you're interested, we also have a physical magazine that we are producing right now with Super Mario Brothers Wonder is our feature, actually. So that's going to be posted out this month. And if you want to jump on board, head on over to patreon.com/pure Nintendo. We'd love your support. We love what we do. We love talking about all things Nintendo. So until next week, thank you again and game on, everybody. Bye.
Have a good one.
Yep.